Hey, good evening all. Hope you all are having a good Tuesday afternoon. Finally got a little bit of drone footage here. Pretty impressive. You're seeing mostly the updraft base, that very dark, ragged area. That's a base up at about 5,000 feet below this cumulonimbus cloud rolling out to the east there. And the other footage from earlier, looking off to the west, you could see a downdraft spreading out, and that looked kind of bright because there's not as much attenuation of the light coming down to the ground there. All right, let's head into the forecast, and I will let you know I'm keeping a very close eye on the frame drops. You can see we've dropped about 680 frames there. It's not too bad, but we'll watch that, and if necessary, we'll restart the stream. Anyway, yeah, we've got Michael out there, and that has crept up into the Category 3 range. You can see that's got a 105 knot sustained winds right there. The pressure is not terribly low. It's up at 957, and remember the storms like Katrina and Alan and what are the others? Andrew. Those storms are way down below 920. So we've definitely got kind of a medium grade storm here, but that is touching the major hurricane category, which starts at Cat 3 there. And just to give you a quick look at the forecast, do we have a forecast motion on that? Well, let me try that real quick here. Yeah, there it is. You can see we're projecting that to move very progressively onto the Florida coast around Apalachicola and up into the southwestern Georgia area, where it's going to lose some strength there, being torn apart due to friction and loss of latent heat. And then it'll move across the Carolinas. Same area of the Carolinas is going to get hit again by rain, but at least it will be moving very quickly, and you can see by Friday it's off into the Atlantic, and it's being swept very quickly by those prevailing westerlies. Okay, so let's see. We've got a couple products up. Oh yeah, Sergio is still out there, but it's a tropical storm now, down to 60 knots, and that was, I think, a Category 4, perhaps. I think that's about as high as I saw it, but we're still expecting that to come onto the Baja California coast there, and then across northwest Mexico into Texas. So we may see a little bit of rain in parts of Texas by the weekend associated with the remnants of that storm. Taking a look at the OHC product, this is ocean heat content. It's going to get a little less, I don't want to put this product under a microscope, but we did have a flare-up up to Category 3, and I've got another product I can show you. Let me put that up real quickly. And this is the projected track. This is going back to Saturday, and you can see that they've got the forecast of that track pretty good. That's the NHC forecast. The whole period, they've got that coming from, I guess, about Panama City out to Apalachicola there. But overlaid on that, we also have the OHC product. And you can see that peak in the center of the Gulf of Mexico That coincides pretty closely with where we saw the intensities come up there. All right, and I've got a couple of other products. Let me wait for the stream to stabilize here a bit. I can see it. We're losing some frames here. And this is the Dvorak animation. And you can see as it passes the coast of Belize there, past Cancun, it's just kind of a cluster of convective elements there. And then we start seeing organization as it approaches the Cuban coast there. And that black shading with the colder tops, you can watch as that starts taking shape and wrapping around the eye. And by this morning, almost completely enclosed the eye there, and now we've got the colder white and medium gray shade starting to show up. So the intensity has definitely been increasing over the past couple days. And got one more product here, and this is just the infrared. And that'll give me a chance to switch over to University of Wisconsin site. Let me bring that up real quick. And I can give you kind of a plot of the estimated intensity. And I'm bringing that up in the background here. And I've got that ready. So, yeah, that's where we're at right now. Looks like a pretty textbook hurricane out there in the Gulf of Mexico. And there's a look at the intensity over the past 3 days or so. Now, this is satellite-derived data, so this isn't like sampling the wind field itself. However, it's pretty reliable for a remote sensing capability here, and you can see that a couple days ago we were pretty much what falls into the Category 1 range, and then we saw things trend upwards about 36 hours ago, and the intensity has kind of plateaued a little bit, and there may be a tiny bit more intensification, but I think the storm is going to be heading into shallower waters there. We don't have like the Gulf Stream working on that area, so whatever residual heat there is in the ocean, that's what the storm's going to be working with. So we should see it peak sometime tomorrow, tonight into tomorrow morning, and then maybe trend down as it starts moving onto the coast there. All right, let's see, what else do we have? I think that's pretty much it. Let's zoom out to the national view and see what's going on. And we'll switch over. Oh yeah, I've got the forecast track. Let me just show you this real quick before I forget. This is, I haven't had a chance to sift through all this, but this is kind of a spaghetti plot of all the various model forecasts, and there's very tight grouping on that track. We don't often see it packed together like that, very narrow band. So there's a pretty high degree of confidence where that's going to make landfall, and we'll zoom in on that area. So there you go. Looks like it's going to be coming right across the Panama City area and just west of Tallahassee there. And let me see if I can fish out the NHC track. Okay. Yeah, it's probably going to be flashing. Yeah, you can kind of see a line flashing there. That's the official NHC track, pretty much right in the center there. And let me give you the GFS track. There it is, also in the center. That's kind of flashing pink there. So we've got pretty high confidence that's going to be making landfall right in the Panama City area. And I think I said Apalachicola. I think that's right in that area there too. No? Okay, they're a little bit further east than I thought. But anyway, yeah, Panama City area right there, and then the remnants are going to be going into southwestern Georgia there. So maybe a little bit of flooding going on in that region as all that moisture comes on shore. All right, let's zoom out and look at the national map. This is the depiction of what's happening. There's weather going on elsewhere. You saw the thunderstorms there on that opening clip rolling into our area. And those storms are due to tropical moisture advecting northward ahead of this frontal system, and also the trough out to the west, destabilizing the atmosphere across this area right there. So the result, thunderstorms right where those overlap there. And also we've got a polar high coming down from Canada. We go up to the north, 1034 millibar high, and lots of cold air pressing southward into the central plains. And we'll take a look at the temperatures. And there we go. 40s all the way down to the Texas Panhandle. I think I can squeeze a few more stations in there. Let's try that one more time. And yeah, 54 there at south central Kansas. That's going to be Medicine Lodge there. But on the other side of the front, we've got 70 just north of Bethany, Missouri, 78 there in Chicago, and 79 in Detroit. So it's starting to look quite a bit like fall here. And we've also got a Pacific front coming into the picture, and you can see that up there in northern Nevada. 50s in that region, but some northwest flow, very gusty winds coming in from that region. So that's it right there. That's the next Pacific front coming into the Great Basin area. And then we'll just take a quick look up in the Arctic region, since some of our air masses are going to be coming from that region for a while. And there's that 1035 millibar high. You can see it's over northern Saskatchewan, and the origin is basically from that area right there, Northwest Territories and the north slope of Alaska. And let's check the temperatures in that region. Nothing below zero yet, but we've seen lots of teens and 20s over the past couple days. And coldest temperature I can find is Resolute right there at 14. And yeah, I can see 10 up at Eureka up there on Elamir Island. So temperatures are starting to come down, and we're going to see the start of the Arctic ice pack developing out in that region. All right, going to the upper air. Let's see what's going on there. Bit of a different picture from Sunday. Very deep trough across the Four Corners area. Major trough right there, and the polar front jet coming southwest across Washington, Oregon, down into the Las Vegas area, and then coming around the other side across the Great Plains and up into Ontario there. And with that approach of the polar front jet, the wind flow picking up across the Great Plains there, 50 knots in DFW, Springfield, up to Wisconsin, and then you go out to the Panhandles and the High Plains, about 110 knots in that region. And we can take a look at the 850 millibar chart and see some of the moisture coming northward, and there's how things look this morning. Now the bottom left plot right there, that tells us the dew point temperature. So let's see, let's do the 15 Celsius isodrosotherm. That's going to be run just like that right there. We can also do 14. Actually, I don't think 14 goes quite up that far north, so we'll just do it like that, and then 12. So it looks like, yeah, a lot of the better moisture down in the South Texas area, and with that south flow, that's basically just advecting it northward. And there's a 50-knot plot right there at Oklahoma City, and then 35 elsewhere, so that's kind of a broad low-level jet bringing that moisture northward. And then up to the north we can see the polar front. So there's the 850 front pressing southward, 850 warm front across Nebraska and Iowa, and probably goes a little further north, maybe something like that there. So yeah, that's the setup this morning. And basically low-level jet, destabilization aloft, and maybe a few boundaries thrown in there, helping to produce some of the storm activity. And let's take a look at the thickness and isobars. See how things look this evening. And this is kind of where we put everything together. You can definitely see Michael out there in the Gulf of Mexico. And then the cold front. There's the Canadian front coming down into West Texas. warm front on the other side. So depending on where you are in Michigan or Wisconsin, it's either very warm or very cold. Baroclinic low looks like it's in the Topeka and Omaha area, right in this region right here. Yeah, let's try pink right there. That's the baroclinic low. And then up there in Nevada, there's the Pacific front coming southward. And that's going to help basically just reinforce that upper level trough that we've got in this area right here. Okay, very good. That's the setup. That's the synoptic scale picture. So with that, we can take a look at some of the satellite data. Okay, we'll start out with the infrared imagery. You can see we've dropped some more frames, 3,400 frames. But we're hanging in there, so we're going to keep going. So what we're looking at here is infrared imagery. And this is a current satellite imagery. This was 10 minutes ago. And the more pronounced the coloring here, the colder the tops. And you can see just how cold the tops are on Michael down there in the Gulf. It's a combination of the storm being dominated by convection, of course. Texas is a good example, dominated by convection in that area, and so we see some of the colder tops in that region too. But also the high tropopause in that region in the Gulf, helping to bring out those black and gray shades. So very cold tops on that storm. And can pick out some of the convective or some of the outflow bands. There's one right there. This is outflow from the storm going into Georgia, but this is not actually a spiral band with convection in it. This is mostly upper level cloud affecting that region. The spiral bands start kind of offshore out in this area here. And there's a definite spiral band right there. And as those spiral bands start coming on shore, that's where we're going to have to watch for the possibility of tornadoes. And those tend to be on the right side of the track on the forward quadrant. So we're looking at this area right here having the better tornado potential. And that'll probably start with these spiral bands as they come on shore. I guess one thing that'll help is landfall is probably going to be during the morning hours. In fact, let me just check that real quick. Make sure the timing on this hasn't changed. Yeah, coming on shore 1 p.m. So that's a little bit before the convective maximum. That'll help a little bit. That'll help mitigate some of the severe weather potential. Okay, let me see which chart we were on. Yeah, we were looking at some of the infrared imagery. All right, let's go region by region and take a look at things. Northwestern U.S., they're obviously under the influence of cold air mass. Remember, we drew out the fronts, and we had that one Pacific front like that and the Canadian front like that. So a lot of this area is going to be under the influence of cold air advection. Lots of stratocumulus, lots of broken clouds, and if you're a pilot, this is a situation where you would have to watch out for obscured mountaintops. And we'll just roll that forward, and you can see the rotation of the upper level system right there in the Boise and Mountain Home area. And typically close to that mid-level low, that's where you're going to find some of the steepest lapse rate. So there's likely a lot of towering cumulus in that area, and maybe some shallow cumulonimbus. Very showery pattern in that region. Okay, going to the southwestern U.S., we can animate this here. Very nice weather there in Arizona, westerly winds, and probably a little bit more mild weather with the flow changing quite a bit. Going out to Texas, we've got the thunderstorms moving through that area. There's that squall line right there, starting out during the morning across central Texas and the San Antonio area, and then gradually moving eastward. And that's where we caught some of that drone footage earlier during the webcast. And right there in the Texas Panhandle, you can see the Canadian front showing up very nicely there. There it is during the early morning hours, and it just shifts south of Childress down into the Post area, La Mesa, and Hobbs. And another thing to look for, there's a lot of detail on here. So not only the front, let me get my cursor back, not only that front right there, but also there's all that convection there. That's associated with the upper level system, the destabilization as that trough approaches the area. So a lot of times this convection here, at the moment right now it's elevated, but as it approaches the better moisture, sometimes the low level moisture is pooled along the front like that. These cells can become more and more surface based. So a lot of times we'll watch these fronts out here for the possibility of supercells, like right along there. That could be a potential area depending on the kind of pattern. This right here, this is the dry slot. Looks very fair in that area. And let's just check out the surface map and kind of put things together. Bring up the plots. And you can see the lower dew points in that area. Dew points are in the lower left of the plot, and we see lots of 40s and 50s across the Edwards Plateau there, contrasting with the 70s and upper 60s in this region. So let me give you the dew point plot. I can give you the shaded plot, and yeah, there's the moisture out there in southeast Texas all the way to Austin, but we've got that dry line right about there. And that would be the symbols that we use for the dry line. And of course, up to the north, there's that cold front coming in from the Texas Panhandle. And if you want to go by some of the old air mass terms, you might have read this in textbooks. We go with CP, continental polar, up there in the Texas Panhandle. We have the maritime tropical air across East Texas. And then we have the continental tropical air in the Edwards Plateau and West Texas region. So feel free to Google for those. Continental tropical, continental polar, maritime tropical. You can Google those and learn a little bit more about air masses and how to identify those. North central U.S., they're going to be mostly under the influence of that Canadian air mass pressing south. Front is, remember, that's down around Wisconsin, Iowa, Kansas, like that. So this is all a cold air mass right there. So we see lots of low clouds, and where we have upper level dynamics working across the area, even some high cloud. There's that right there. Southeastern U.S., watching Michael approach. We'll set that into motion there. And there it comes. Very well developed eye there, and you can see that little shot of convection around midday. See, there it is right in that area, firing and then wrapping around the eye. And looking like a pretty well developed storm. So current picture is about like this. Yeah, it looks like we got a little bit of weak convection there in the Atlanta area. Got just a little bit of convection along that that band coming from Michael there. And I can also see convective elements in western Missouri and western Arkansas there. Not a whole lot of convection across the southeast because we're backing the flow a little bit. It's coming more out of the north, and that tends to bring some drier air southward. Then the northeastern U.S., I'll just freeze frame that, and you can definitely see a difference in the air masses. It looks a lot more tropical across Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan there, and then up to the north, more stratiform cloud up in that area due to the cold air in that region. And just animating that real quick. It's like we saw a few thunderstorms going up in western Michigan there, central Wisconsin. Otherwise, pretty quiet day across the northeastern U.S. All right, we'll go ahead and look at the forecast, and this is where we look at the upper level dynamics, see what we're going to be dealing with here. So this is the 500 millibar Heights and vorticity. So the current product looking like this. Pretty good jet max in Nevada associated with that Pacific front moving through that area. There's the jet, and the front was something like that right there. So everything matches up pretty good. That front has jet support, and the jet max located around the Winnemucca area in northern Nevada there. And then we've got our other system in the Great Plains. Looks like there's a jet max in western Kansas there. The jet itself running kind of like that right there. The ridge located in the Great Lakes area. The trough out in this area. So we would expect to find the baroclinic low in this area right here in between, along the jet, and then the fronts would go something like that. That's pretty close, especially in the central plains, but not so much back here. The front is actually something like that, and a lot of that discrepancy there back in Texas is due to the interaction between the front and the Rocky Mountains in New Mexico. So running that forward, that weather system is going to be moving northeast into the Wisconsin, Iowa, and Minnesota area. So it's going to be heading for that region right there, and then the tail end trough, it's going to be moving into the Mississippi River Valley, bringing those storms with it. And then here's shot number 2 right there. That's the Pacific front coming in back in behind, and that'll be emerging out into the Great Plains around Wednesday and Thursday. There it is right there. So that'll probably just kind of reinforce the air mass that we have in place right there. Another bit of energy moving through California on Thursday. Jet redeveloping in that area. That'll probably help to deepen the trough again a little bit. Meanwhile, the remnants of Michael coming on shore. There it is moving across South Carolina there on Thursday night. And then we have Sergio, the remnants of that, coming into the Baja California area. And that'll probably link up with this trough in California. And actually, it looks like that develops a cutoff low. So that'll be something to look forward to after the weekend. There's the trough associated with Sergio, the remnants just kind of moving quickly northeast. And then we have a new jet max coming out of western Canada there. Okay, so we're going into the weekend and into the start of next week. That trough digs in really well into the Four Corners area. There it is right there on Sunday. Looks like that cutoff low just sits there and spins for a while across Baja California. The main trough moving across the central U.S. on Monday, and that's probably going to be a bit of a Alberta clipper coming south. Looking at the upper level charts, I think we got something like that. Frontal system across the Midwest and southern U.S., and then we've got this river of cold air coming out of western Canada, so that's probably going to reinforce this cold air mass across the central U.S. Another disturbance coming southward around midweek. The Arctic Express continuing into midweek next week. And looks like we got a bit of a blocking pattern set up across the western U.S. Rex block showing right there. There's our upper level high, upper level low, and they're kind of sitting right there on the same meridian, and that will tend to lock up the flow. So I guess we're going to be looking at a week from now, almost a well dug in trough across the eastern U.S. and ridge in the western U.S. So it's going to be kind of tough to break that down. And the Pacific is trying. You can see a couple troughs hitting the Canadian coast right there. The pattern is the ridge right there is still hanging on right there And these troughs are really trying to grind it down as we get into the 23rd and 24th. But even after that, we're still looking at northwesterly flow. So looks like we're going to have kind of a cool middle and end of October for the central and eastern U.S. and maybe a little warm for the western U.S. this month. Okay, so that's a look at the next 2 weeks, and I'll just summarize that real quick with the precipitable water. This is good for watching the departure of the tropical air as that polar air starts sweeping southward. So there's Michael coming on shore Wednesday. And out to the west, you can see this green and brown coming into the central U.S., and that's cool air coming in from Canada, cool and dry air. And there it is, cold air advancing into the Midwest and southern U.S., a lot of it wrapping into the south side of Michael right there. Remnants of Michael coming across the Carolinas on Thursday. And we start to get a little bit of return flow in the Rio Grande region, West Texas on Friday. But some stiff resistance with that high and the ridge across the northern U.S. right there. So that'll kind of put the brakes on that return flow a little bit. A little bit of a baroclinic system coming together over the weekend in Texas, taking that moisture and bolting eastward. And then we get the next polar high moving south into Texas around Tuesday, and you can see it really taking a toll on the tropical air. Most of the tropical air confined to the Gulf Coast region. And then here comes that next Alberta Clipper midweek next week. And that's just really cutting into that tropical air, and about the only place we have it in Texas, or why do I keep saying Texas? The only place we have it on Sunday the 21st is Florida and South Texas. All right, so we're looking at quite a pattern change over the next few days, and that should stick with us for at least a couple weeks. All right, checking back in, one last look at our storm. Let me see if I can bring that up. Yeah, when is that for? Let me see here, 12:35. Yeah, that's going to be old imagery. So let me find you some satellite imagery of Michael, and there we go. That's a shot from about 45 minutes ago, and showing that medium gray completely wrapped around the eye there. So this is definitely a pretty well-developed storm. All right, let me check in on chat. Been going 100 miles an hour here, so let me see what's going on here. Got Suim here with 87 in south central Indiana. JT and Crystal Lake reporting 52. No, 100. I'm sorry, 73 over 68. Got Carl Berghoff here. And JT giving us a rundown on the satellite imagery of Michael. Got Mike R here. And Erica Baker, Coffeyville, Kansas, 67. Alexi also reporting 67 in Texarkana. David Lumbert in Maumelle, Arkansas, 72 over 72. Ryan Toomey is watching the storm there. Pressure 952 millibars. Willie Greenway in Funwatech. Ron Chalfant. Trish Ann Liu asking for a snowfall update. Well, I'll give you the panel real quickly, since I've got those tabs open. Okay, let's see. The next system, Sunday, Monday, Looks pretty quiet under the influence of high pressure across much of the northern U.S. Then Alberta Clipper around Tuesday, coming down into Wisconsin, Iowa there. Looks like most of the precip is rain. Around Sault Ste. Marie right there, a little bit of snow. Pretty quiet there. Another Alberta Clipper coming south around Thursday. However, with these systems that move quickly from northwest to southeast, there tends to be very little accumulation of snow, and even here the snowfall looks kind of light, and it's confined mostly to the UP of Michigan there and far northern lower Michigan. So yeah, the snow is starting up and towards the very end there. Sunday the 21st even indicating some for New York. So I guess it finally begins for Buffalo, snowfall capital of the U.S. there. Okay, that's about all I got for tonight. Appreciate you watching the webcast, and I think our storm is going to be making landfall tomorrow morning. I'm probably not going to really be able to cover that unless it slows down. But if I'm up and it's making landfall, we'll start the stream. Otherwise, I'll see you on Thursday. All right, take care all. Have a good day. Or have a good evening, too. Bye-bye.